She actually, her and her husband went down to the center line of the eclipse.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if they were in New Mexico or West Texas, but she was actually going to do a presentation tonight with some pictures from the eclipse and everything that they took. And then when they got back, one of their something happened to one of their pets. Ended up having to have like major hip surgery this week. So she said, "Can we just reschedule it?" I said, "Sure." I've always got a couple of backup presentations just in case.
Well, I called my brother after the eclipse, and they got a place out in Castle Valley, Utah,
Oh yeah.
and which is about 15 minutes outside of Moab, and you can actually see the Arches National Park in the background. And they were pretty close to the totality, and where they were, it was something like 98% covered.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him a call and I asked him if they went down to see the total. Well, not total, but see the ring of fire.
Right.
He said, no. You know, they had seen many of them, but he's traveled all over, seen many of them. And they just got back from a 2.5-month road trip up to the Arctic Ocean.
Oh wow.
And he said, you know, we kind of had our fill of driving for a while. And I said, well, what did you do? He said, oh, we just sat in the hot tub and watched it. Well, you know, that wouldn't be bad, 98%. So it was covered all except, you know, they got a little arc at the top. Which, I think would be all right, especially if you'd seen a bunch. But this spring, you know, some folks in the family saying, well, you know, we need to make reservations to stay someplace. And what I've been telling them, my thought is, you know, you don't want to do that because that's the time of year where there's going to be clouds and you could be in a motel 2 months away, 2 states away from where it's going to be at. My thought is to look at the forecast, head down in an area that looks close, and park the car, have a full tank of gas, and if need be, sleep in the car or drop a tent.
That's what Michael and I have been talking, and I think we're just going to go someplace, you know, on the eastern side of that Austin-Dallas line, because I just don't want to deal with that many people.
Yeah.
But you know, we got stuck when we were in St. Joe, and we really couldn't. By the time, you know, we had a pretty good idea what was going to happen the next day, we couldn't get to where we would have wanted to have gone in time. So we're going to be a little bit more mobile this time, and they talked to them. I think we're just going to sleep in the car and
I think
Walmart parking lots.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah, on this last one, we were going to be at St. Joe. I called the scout office up there, and they said, yeah, you could set up a tent.
In the scout camp.
Yeah. And ahead of time, that looked like that was a perfect location. And then when it looked like that might be a problem, I called a farmer over in Atchison, and he said, yeah, you can park up in my the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day before, when it really started looking bad, we got in the car, we threw everything in the car, we drove up to central Nebraska, spent the night. In the morning of the eclipse, it was just perfectly clear, and my son then came out and said, Dad, he said, I just looked at the map and the clouds moved, and we got in the car and drove another 150 miles.
Yeah, I think we're going to be a little bit.
I have the road map
Yeah,
Okay.
that too for the eclipse.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I left you a message then called Bill to
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
read it. I realized around 6:20.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I would just say I have had a busy with a lot of stuff going on.
Now, in a few months, we're gonna be thinking, this is not cold.
I can get a lot colder than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I went out, and I thought, at 2 a.m.
What are we having
2
for
months from now, I'll be outside, and I'll
program?
have on my long
Well,
underwear
we're
and
gonna have,
pants and
your
sweater
Paris
and
was
fleece
doing a
and
presentation
park
on
up.
her trip down to the center line.
I think I'll be inside having a hot coat though. I mean, I've done it before.
Earlier this week.
You know, when I first
See what they
finished my
would do,
10-inch
so I just-
telescope, and it was
I
time
just
for
pulled
first
out
light,
on
it
my
was
standby.
20 degrees and windy at night.
Yeah.
And I took it out anyway. I did first light with
You
it.
have to.
Had to. The cop thought I was crazy. Came
What?
across me at the cemetery.
Well, you were crazy, but.
Yeah.
I did
Well,
the
I was
same.
also upset because my stars looked like spiders crawling across the field, and it took me a while to figure out what was wrong with it, aside from the thermals, because it was 20 degrees out. But I had the mirror resting on vinyl points. I had 6 vinyl points that it was resting on, and just the stickiness of the vinyl was enough to warp the mirror.
Really?
It wouldn't slide and lay, you know, and even out on them. I changed the vinyl to nylon. Boom, got star pitches.
I've been thinking about getting one of those,
When a cop stopped us
Yeah,
at a
where you
cemetery, 30
Bluetooth
or 40 miles north of
your
Holton,
telescope.
when we were up one night looking for Aurora.
I keep thinking about it.
And
And then-
there was a
and let it-
cemetery
let
on
it
the
take
highway
pictures while you
that was
collect
open.
images on
I figured, well, there's no lights in there.
Just do everything.
Yeah, so- And so I just pulled in there, and we were just
To,
sitting out leaning on the side, and this cop pulls it in, and I goes, what's going on? I said, "Oh, we're looking
And we
for
forgot our
Aurora."
shovels.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
They're pretty proud of those devices, but,
Did he believe you under?
Yeah, no, he was fine. He goes, that's fine. He goes, I'd rather have you stop in here than on the side of the highway where, you know.
Well, my normal viewing spot is the cemetery. You've been there, right? The one at Collier Cemetery.
No, I haven't been there, but I've been to another cemetery outside of Leavenworth. Had the most frightening experience when I was in high school kid.
Oh.
It was January, cold. My brother was, the caretaker of the cemetery was a friend of my dad's. He said, yeah, you guys go out and come. So we're out there in the cemetery, colder than Dickens. My brother's setting up the telescope. And we had an old car that was shared, and I had a park on, and I had a big stick with it, and I was standing there leaning against the car, waiting for him to get everything set up. And I felt a hand on the back of my neck. I didn't, and, the pressure changed. And I knew there was only 2 people out there, and I was one of them, my brother was the other. And after what seemed like an eternity, probably 5-10 seconds, I ran out toward him, turned around, and what it was the antenna on the car had fallen down and hooked on the back. And as I was standing there, it was changing the pressure.
You were talking about going to the cemetery. We had a couple rocket guys who had a rocket crash in the cemetery, and it went completely underground.
Oh, boy.
So they had to go to the cemetery with shovels. Like, have fun with the cops.
Yeah. That one might be a little bit harder to.
Yeah, I think I would have left the one.
That rocket had been like this tall when they launched it, and when they got it back, it was about this
Oh,
tall.
my goodness.
First light on, I built a 8-inch dome some years back, and we were at one of our meetings at Malad, and a couple of those guys, after the meeting, I told these guys, yeah, we finished this telescope, and I said, I really haven't looked at any stars with it yet, and they were like, let's go out, let's go out tomorrow night or something. So those guys came by and picked me up, and it was like sometime in January. How does that work? How does that happen? I must have finished it in December. Because it wasn't
Winter
good anyway. So
project.
we're heading out. It was so cold. Oh my God, it was cold out there. But they had their telescopes. Chadwick Bird, you guys know him? Chadwick.
Oh,
He's kind of an inventor. He's sort of an inventor. But, so he wanted to experiment with this thing he had. But anyway, we were out there at, not the cemetery, but near Rex's. We were out near Rex's.
Just on that road across the street.
Yeah, we were on that road. I think we got some hot chocolate on the way back, but it was fun.
Was
We
Rex
were
with you
freezing,
for
but
that?
we had a great time.
Was Rex with you for that?
No, it was Chad, and he had some
Why'd you
friends.
go to Rex's place?
Dorfscott's.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had a good time.
Well, I usually try to dress like I would on a winter camp out,
yeah.
wear everything at home.
Everything. That's a good way to think about it. Just put it on.
That's right. If you're not sure, put it on.
Well, that's it for the Brown stories.
well, I don't expect we're gonna have very many people tonight, well, with the Chiefs game and the KU basketball game, the temperature.
Yeah, I try to pass on the Chiefs game.
The KU basketball game wasn't looking that much better.
Well, and the 100th anniversary of the Republic of Turkey
That's something to celebrate.
today. I bet somebody on campus was celebrating today with tasty exotic food. I didn't check. I only found out during my family Zoom because I have Turkish relatives. They were celebrating all day in Turkey. It was past midnight though by the time we were talking to them in the afternoon here. So it was all over. They were ready to go to bed.
Aren't they like cousins?
Well, these are the students who lived with us.
Okay,
Who we kind of
yeah.
adopted as family. They're not
Yeah.
officially family. but-
So they joined the
Close
group.
enough.
Yeah. And Yuan, of all the people who lived with us, he's one of the ones who lived with us the longest. It's like maybe 2.5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're Turkish?
Yeah, he's Turkish. He's had a career as an architect. He's had a career designing high-rise apartments for Russia. And I'm like, no. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's gotta be great. He seems fine with it, but I'm like, oh, gosh.
They're apparently one of the Russians' most classic Christmas movies has to do with their high rises. This is prior, this is the old high rises.
Yeah?
They all look exactly like each other in different cities.
Wow.
So it's a guy, it's a movie about a guy who gets drunk, gets on the plane, and he passes out on the plane. Plane lands in a different city. They had to make it reroute. Lands in it, he doesn't know what happened. He gets out, thinks he's in Moscow, he's really liking land drivers. Gets out, gets it, hails a taxi. Somehow he gets to where he thinks it's his place. They all look exactly the same. So he gets there, he goes up, he goes before, knocks on the door. A woman answers, thinks he's nuts. He's, "What are you in my apartment?" No, they're going crazy. They're mad at each other. He will not leave. He can't, he sits outside the door. Of course, it turns into a romance.
Of course.
Apparently, that's like a classic.
Sounds pretty
Russian.
good. Do you know the title of that?
No?
Maybe I'll look that up.
I wonder what the building code must be like.
Who knows?
It reminds me of Green Card. You seen the movie Green Card?
All right, so Geraldine Ramirez, who if you remember, maybe a year ago or so, she did a presentation for us about the library telescope program.
Yeah.
She, her and her husband traveled down to the center line of the annular eclipse.
Good for them.
And she was going to be giving a presentation about that tonight, but she had an emergency. One of her pets had to have major hip surgery
Oh, no.
this week, and not doing great. So we're going to reschedule her for, I think, January, for the January meeting. So we'll still get to see her pictures and listen to her stories, but I kind of scrambled, and I started working on this presentation a while back, and I just had to scramble and finish it up. So we had something to do tonight. This was actually something I was going to do in the spring, but anyway, talk a little bit, because there's some really nice apps and websites out there right now that are give us pretty good weather forecasting specifically for astronomical purposes. So I thought maybe we'd look at some of the better ones of those. And when we talk about weather forecasting as it pertains to, astronomy, we're not just talking about, hurricanes and tornadoes and snow, but we're talking about dew and fog and all sorts of other things weather related, and smoke, which we've had to deal with a little bit the last couple of summers because of the Canadian wildfires. So, and there's some of these new apps have the ability to track some of those things as well. So thought we'd kind of look at some of those. But before we do that, because it always seems like, like the weather we had for the annular eclipse, or several years ago, the weather that we had for the Mercury transit, that we could never see here because of the clouds. It was actually raining that day. So I thought I'd throw a little levity into
You can explain why it's always cloudy when something happens?
Well, yeah. So just some little cartoons that I've collected over the years. This is the night sky on a normal day, and then the night sky whenever there's any kind of an astronomical event. Or I like the one with the telescope where there's one cloud, but it's just hanging out right above that telescope. The old man yells at cloud, sort of thing. Kansas astronomy, that's another classic. This is a good one here, the two on the left from the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December of 2020. One of them was the day by day, and then of course, where we live, there's a cloud. Actually, it was clear that night, so that was good for closest approach. But then an old Peanuts cartoon where somebody added some new words. How's that Jupiter-Saturn thing going in the rain? This was on the right. This was the first one, the first time I've seen that one. It was just this year, right after the annular eclipse. I hadn't seen that one before. And then, of course, the running joke about every time somebody buys a new telescope or gets a new piece of equipment, it's going to be cloudy for a while. I do like, there's a telescope dealer in United Kingdom called First Light Optics. Every package they send out has that sticker on it and says, "May contain clouds." On the boxes of everything that they ship out, which I think is kind of funny. And of course, you get to see the the one star through the clouds, and you know, there's always somebody say, "Oh, it'll clear up any minute now." Just some humorous sort of things. But I mean, how many times? I know it's happened to me multiple times. In fact, I got this email December of last year when we had the Planet Palooza that was scheduled for on top of the parking garage that we had to reschedule because of the weather. And I got an email, and I'm not saying that, you know, this person's, a lot of people just don't understand that, you know, if we can't see it with our eyes, we can't see it with the telescope either. But this gentleman was real upset. He and his granddaughter got all bundled up to be at the library tonight, and he said the weather wasn't bad enough to keep us home. Why would you cancel? And basically I said, the same thing. I said, the clouds were the problem, because if we can't see anything, our telescopes can't see anything either. But I've had those kind of messages before in the past. I don't really blame the people because they may not understand. So in the old days, and some people even in modern days, the two great tools that we had for predicting weather were a barometer and a thermometer. Yeah, so we could tell the temperature, and not necessarily just what the barometric pressure was, but how it's changing over time. So that's why most barometers actually had one dial that would move and then one dial that you could set, and you could set it at the beginning of the day and then come back and look at it later and see whether the pressure was rising or the pressure was lowering. And generally speaking, if the pressure was getting higher, that was a good sign. Or if the pressure was going down, getting lower, that was generally a bad sign. But they're pretty rudimentary tools. A lot of people still like using the barometers. So some of these more modern tools we'll look at actually have the barometric pressure as one of the pieces that they look at. And then of course we have the weather on TV. I'll start by saying, and I did this earlier this week, so they were pretty close. We didn't get as much rain as I think they were originally thinking, but the clouds were certainly here all day. What I've found is that for the most part, the weather forecast on the news, because they only have 4 minutes to do the weather forecast, they're more worried about what the weather's going to be like during the day, the next day, and the day after that. Not so much what the weather's going to be like that night, because people sleep. Most people sleep at night, so if it rains at night, who cares? They're more worried about what happens during the day. And then we have, of course, the Weather Channel and AccuWeather. And just a little bit about how I set these up. On the bottom, the Chrome signal just means that there's a website out on the internet for that app for AccuWeather. But down here on the bottom left, there's also an app that you can use for your phones or tablets, and in this case it's available for Apple and Android products. So that's sort of how those bottom corner symbols are going to work, because not all these are available in all those different formats. Well, these are better than the 4-minute weather forecast on TV. They do give you some more information, but they still don't give you as good information, I think, as you can get through other sources. All of these apps, once you get out beyond about 48 hours or maybe 3 days out into the future, there's a lot of guesstimation still. They're modeling it, but it's, again, just a model, and we all know that the weather doesn't always cooperate. One of the first tools I started using a while back is from National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's called their graphical forecast, and you can do it like the Topeka forecast basically covers northeast Kansas, and it does give you information about maximum and minimum temperature, probability of precipitation, weather, temperature, dew point, which is important, sky cover, how much precipitation, whether it's rain or snow, and the temperature. And it goes in 4-hour increments, so you can scroll, or I'm sorry, 3-hour increments. But you can scroll forward 12 hours at a time, and then you just click on the cell that's closest to the time that you're looking for that information, and it will represent it over here with a color-coded picture. So this is a nice one. This is basically the weather coming directly from the National Weather Service. So it expands quite a bit on what you might see on, the Weather Channel or AccuWeather or on the TV news. But it's a good resource, and it's one I've been using for a long time, before some of these other apps were even in existence. And what we can do, so I've created these links so we can go in and actually look at some of those sites directly. So if we want to look at, let's just look at the weather for 10 o'clock tonight, and so there's no weather, cloud cover, so it's showing for Lawrence at 10 o'clock, we're going to have about 50% cloud cover. So you can use this website to look at some of that future weather. The next one, and this is the one I've actually been using for almost as long. It's called. It originally was called Clear Dark Sky, and it's still called that, but most people just call it the Clear Sky Charts. They changed the name of it a few years ago. On this, it reads from left to right. You get about 3 days worth of data. And just in general purposes, dark blue is good, white is not. But the nice thing about this site is that it's really made for astronomers. So you've got cloud cover, you've got transparency and seeing, which are things that you're not going to get from any of those other sites that we looked at earlier. Just here within the last year and a half, they added the smoke on that bottom section. So these are that top section is more what's happening way up in the sky. The bottom section is more the things that are happening a little bit closer to the ground. So you've got wind, humidity, temperature, and they've added the smoke. So in this particular case, you can see it's dark blue all the way across, which means that smoke-wise, we're pretty good, and that's not uncommon for right after you've had rain, all that particulate stuff. So this is what it looks like when you go. There's over 6, this is mostly North America, so it's Canada and the US. There's over 6,000 sites loaded into the system, so you can find one that's closest to wherever you are. And you can collect those over here on the left where it gives you a map, or you can do it by a list. If you click on the little color legend box, it opens up that other piece down at the bottom, so you can translate what those different shaded boxes actually mean. But the other way that you can do that too is to just hover over a box and it'll give you that same information.
You got a perfect example there of where this is superior to the regular forecasts, because you got all that dark blue, and then in the seeing line you can see that the seeing's bad, which they never would tell you in an ordinary forecast.
No,
That
most of
light
them.
blue and the light gray, blurry images.
Yep. There's some additional things down here as well. So one is the link to light pollution map that you can zoom in on just to see if we're looking for a location someplace close to, so here's Kansas City, Topeka, Lawrence. This is down in the Flint Hills. Some of these little dark spots right down in here, which are not too far away, are like around Lake Melbourne is one of the closer places nearby that where it's pretty dark. Oops. The other thing too that I like about this is you can actually go in and it'll show you the sun and moon data as well. So if you're interested in, you know, what the phase of the moon is, if you're trying to plan out some observations, all this data comes from it's like the Canadian version of the National Weather Service. It's called Environment Canada, and this gentleman, Attila Darko, is the one who wrote all the coding and everything to do this, which is pretty cool, I think. I use this one a lot because it's actually a really good place to go to see. Now there's a bolt-on that you can get. It's called Clear Sky Alarm Clock, where you can actually go in, you can just register, it doesn't cost anything, but you can go in and set parameters on all those different things. So if you have a minimum temperature that you don't want to go out observing below, or if you have I don't want the scene to be any worse than this, or I don't want the transparency to be any worse than this, you can set those guardrails, and then it'll actually message you saying that this upcoming night or tomorrow is going to fit in your parameters.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun little thing that you can bolt on. Now, this doesn't come with an app like the Clear Sky Chart it has an iOS app, but it doesn't have an Android app.
Well, this one, I just now downloaded it off the Apple store.
Oh,
That's an Apple one, but not an Android one.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
However, you can insert your local clear sky chart onto any web page. It has
right, yeah, I mean, so you can still do it because you can just go to that, because it has a website, these all have websites. So, even if you don't wanna get the app, you can always just save it as save the address as a favorite on your phone and just go to the website. Sometimes the websites are set up a little bit differently than the apps are. But it's just-
Tonight's gonna be lousy.
Yeah, good.
Tonight's gonna be lousy? Yeah.
I like
Tough
the,
call.
I like the guardrail idea because, I always used to, bring this up, see what it's gonna be like tonight, and then I can never remember clear, those categories. And
Right.
I was trying to figure out, okay, which one is it that's gonna hurt me the most after the main one? But with the guardrail idea, I mean, it's just tell me,
Yeah, there's another one, so there's 4 that I'm concentrating on. There's a couple of peripheral ones that I'll look at the end, but there's 4 main ones I think that I'm looking at. And so this is the second one. It's called Clear Outside, and it's got apps for both operating systems plus a website. But the 4th one is called Good to Stargaze, is the name of the app, and it also, you can set parameters, and the page that you go to once you've set all that stuff up, automatically, it's a little bit so this one operates left to right. It's a little bit like Clear Sky Clock, just by that, and the blue is good and the white's not good, similar to the way the other one is set up. This one has, the advantage of this one is it has total clouds, then low, medium, and high clouds. So sometimes if you're just going to go out looking at the moon or something like that, thin high clouds might not necessarily get in your way. The low, thick, water-filled clouds aren't good for anything, but you can look at this and say, you can tell what percentage of those clouds are forecasting to be high, low, or medium height clouds. This one also adds in the International Space Station flyovers once you've set it for your site. And then this also has a fog indicator. So this one has a few things that aren't in the other app. What you'll find is that they all have some things that aren't in one of the other apps, so that's why I generally look at all of them real quick just to see, because you can get some information out of one that you can't get out of the other one. Like the smoke piece that they added to the Clear Sky Clock. So, but this also shows the moon phase right up here, and there's a few other columns down in here as well. And this one goes a little bit out farther into the future than the Clear Sky Clock. Clear Sky Clock, you're usually going to get 48 to 36 hours, depending upon whether you're looking at the app or the website. Stretches it out a little bit longer. I think it goes out almost a week for Clear Outside. So you can look a little bit farther out into the future. And we can actually go in and look at this one. So here's some of those other bits of information. So like right in here, shows chance for frost, wind speed and wind direction, temperature, wind chill, what the dew point is, relative humidity, and then the barometric pressure. So this is one that adds that barometric pressure, so you can see the trend of whether it's getting better or getting worse. And then it just goes down. You can open up each day just by clicking here and get the information. But I guess it only goes out, yeah, it goes out a week. So, and then it defaults to centering on midnight for that day, but you can center it on midday, or you can just drag the hours across. You can set your default location. So anyway, this has got some fun things that you didn't see in that first one. This one I'm still playing around with because it's a little bit newer, but it has lots of good information. It's a little bit at the top, like the other ones, where the dark blue goes left to right. Dark blue is good, the white is not good. So this was earlier this week. Hope nobody was planning on going out on Tuesday night to do any observing, because it doesn't look like you would have had much luck. But it does have the clouds, precipitation. It does also contain the ISS flyovers. It gives you sunrise and sunset, and the wind and the direction. But the nice thing I like about this one, it gives you a real quick glance at, you've got dew point down here in blue, temperature in red, and when those two lines get really close together, that's when you're going to have dew. When the dew point is the same as the local temperature. So that gives you a real good indication of, not that anybody would have been going out right here to observe, but anyhow, that gives you an indication of when there might be something going on. Now, it centers on, whenever you open the app, it centers on that hour when you opened it. So I obviously took this screenshot on Monday at 7 o'clock. And it gives you a summary right down here across the bottom for that moment in time, for cloud cover, transparency, seeing, wind, temperature, dew point. So this one also is available online or on an app. And then it goes out into the future as well. So this one goes out about 10 days. Again,
What's the name of that one again?
Astrospheric. Right here. And then the nice thing about this one, and I think they had a link now on the Clear Dark Sky as well, where, and this will obviously update a lot between now and April 8th, but they're going to have they have the link for the 2024 eclipse information. So if you put in a location and click that, you can get this same information. Obviously, this far out, they're just using averages, but as you get closer, Parker, as we were talking about, if you're in a car ready to go wherever you need to go to get there, you can set options for different locations and look and see where the forecast is looking better as much as a week out. So
One problem I have with that is you can't buy an ad-free version. The only way to get rid of the ads is to subscribe.
Yes. Like so many apps, yes. That is a correct statement. So you're closing little ad boxes on a regular basis on this one. But I still kind of like it just because it's,
It's good, it's the one I use.
yeah, it's got the same way as it's graphically outlining the dew point and the temperature. It's also graphically outlining the day and the sun setting, and then it also pulls a ISS up into that as well. There's a lot of information in this one, so I'm still trying to kind of work my way through this one, but I do like the dew point information that comes in this one. Here's that good to stargaze. So this one, once you've set your parameters, this is kind of the landing page that you go to when you open it up. And it's like a stoplight. If it's green, it's good. If it's yellow, it's yeah. If it's red, it's stop. And again, this is another one. I think I actually have, yeah. So again, in this one, you can actually set parameters as well for minimum temperature, maximum wind, maximum cloud cover, scene, transparency, visibility, precipitation, all those things, wind chill. And you can set your parameters, and on any of those parameters, if even one of those parameters is outside of your good range, then on that landing slide, it's going to be red instead of green. So this one works a little bit differently. It gives you the information, but it doesn't give it to you in necessarily a graphical format. It's more of a yes or no. So, if this was set for my home, this might be what it looks like. Well, not tonight, but, my light pollution parameter probably isn't going to pass from my front driveway. But I know that if everything else is good, I might still pull a telescope out.
Yeah, Rick, I just downloaded the previous one, and just scrolling through here, a really neat feature that has on it is that it can list out astronomical targets, and I'm looking at the Eagle Nebula, Jupiter, Moon, etc., and it gives the current altitude of it and the time that it will set. That is
For
that
planning,
would be a tremendously helpful feature.
yeah, for planning an evening, you can
Absolutely.
see whether the weather's going to cooperate and what might be visible if it is.
That's right.
So in this one, you still have the oh, well, tonight it's not good to stargaze, according to this app. So it gives you the sunrise, sunset, visibility, cloud cover, scene, transparency. It shows you now, or you can scroll over to different times. This one definitely has there's a certain amount, there's a limit to how far into the future this one will go without you having to buy the deluxe version. It may show a week down there, but you really can only go out for a few hours. But I like the interface where it's that red, green, yellow, makes it pretty easy to understand as you go. This is a new one that I just started playing around with. It's called Windy, and it has a lot of really good information. In fact, I used this. This was probably the closest forecasting-wise to what actually happened on that Saturday during the eclipse. This one actually gave me some pretty good information. It lands on this page where you see the wind direction, but you can go into some of these other parameters like clouds, and it'll add in the layer of cloud cover, air quality, which would include the smoke feature, but then it also has this graph down here at the bottom that shows you it's not just, even though the app is called Windy, it's not just wind, but the cloud part of this one is what I actually like the best, because it lays it out more like a satellite photo of the clouds, as opposed to just saying, you know, you're gonna have 70% clouds, but you can see it's a little more like the National Weather Service graphical forecast that we looked at first. It'll show you where it might be a little bit better, not too far from where you are, if you wanted to travel. Looks like we've had 2 inches of rain in Topeka today. And then here's a brand new one. It's called Zesteria. So the description of the app had multiple different ways to pronounce it, but the creator actually said if you just want to call it Zesteria, that's fine with him.
That's one I use. It's a helpful one in that it tends to go out farther than some of the others to give you a rough idea what's going to be going on.
It does, and the other thing that I like about this one is it's a little bit like one-stop shopping. So you can click on the link for a clear sky chart, and it will take you to that clear sky chart. You can click on the link for astroperic, it'll take you to there. For windy, it'll take you to there. For clear outside, it'll take you there. Meteo blue is another one that's some people use a lot. So the nice thing about this is, oops. Well, I haven't played that much with the app itself. It's pretty cool that you can access those other apps from this app as well. So if you want to look at 3 or 4 different ones, you can do it all from that page. And then I kind of did like a yes-no chart on what these different apps offer. So, you know, the darkness piece, the clouds piece, the wind piece, the temperature piece are pretty much on all of them. But you can also see that each app has some things that it doesn't show. And that's why I think it's useful to use multiple apps if you're really trying to decide what you want to do. I mean, this is kind of what I go through, and if we have an event that we're thinking about canceling, although I figured at the one at the library, we had gotten so much publicity about that, people were gonna show up, whether I showed up or not. That would just be polite if we had somebody there to talk to them anyway.
And we saw the eclipse.
And we did see the eclipse. Yeah, we saw the eclipse a couple times, and then Michael took a picture of it, 2 pictures of it, from our driveway when we got home, and we were unloading the car. So,
I got a picture of it from the library.
yeah. No, it was, it's, if you wait long enough. But most of the public that came by and see us talk for a while, and then they left. So there were a couple people there when it popped out the one time. But again, the piece I like about some of these newer ones that they're adding now is that smoke feature, because that has been an issue the last couple of years. Some of the apps will take that in consideration in their algorithm for transparency. Some of them don't. And some of them, like Clear Outside, doesn't have transparency or smoke, so that's you're not going to find it on that app.
And the Astrospheric, there's the only one that has jet stream, and Rex used to find that really helpful for getting the best seeing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, of all those, Astrospheric has the least number of red X's. It contains a ton of information. So, and then I just thought I would show a couple more real quick that I use sometimes. Before they started adding the smoke feature to some of these other apps, this was my go-to site for smoke. And it's called Air Now. And it has just gives you the air quality on the landing page, but if you actually go to if you go to this link for fires and smoke, so obviously we don't have a lot of smoke right around here right now, but if we back out a little bit, so all these are the air quality stations. The greens are good, the yellows are not so good. Let me remember how to get rid of these. There's a way you can make those dots go away. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. So I don't go in here that much anymore. Here it is. Turn these air monitors off, and then we're going to see where the fires are and where there might be issues with smoke. I don't see any really large smoky areas right now. Usually there's a gray shaded area where the smoke is coming from those fires, but you can see where the fires are anyway right now. And then there's also this NASA site called FIRMS, it's Fire Information for Resource Management, and it's a similar kind of site as the fire map on Air Now, where it shows where the fires are, and then you can look at the smoke also by clicking down here on the layers. You can add that smoke layer so you can see what's going on. And then for Aurora, this is pretty much the site to go to. Now, a couple of those, I didn't add that as a feature on that chart, but a couple of those other weather sites also have links for Aurora watches. I think that there's a link on Clear Sky Clocks and one other one. Or you can just go to Space Weather Live, and it'll show you the what they call the Aurora Oval, so you can see how on any given day how far south you've got a chance of seeing aurora, and it's for the northern lights and the southern lights. There's also, on this website, you can sign up for alerts. So if there's been a flare or, you know, something major happen on the sun, it'll send you a notification on your phone so you can be prepared. You know, most of them are small to moderate, and in this part of the world, we don't even worry about those, but every once in a while you see a really big one, and then you know in a couple of days you got a pretty good chance that maybe you can see a little bit of lightning of the sky.
We're at a point now where you may actually trigger some alerts. I had it running for a few years on my phone and never got an alert.
I think I get almost one alert every day, if not two or three.
Yeah, but I set the settings so it only alert me if it was something I could actually see.
Right, yeah, I've just got it, so it's sending me alerts. So.
Yeah, no, I didn't want that. I wanted to know when I could see something. But now there's a chance. For a few years there wasn't, but now there is.
Right. But that's a fun website if you're into chasing down aurora. And then for those who are planning on doing any traveling, this is one of the go-to sites for eclipses. And the key to this site is actually in this link right here, and it's very, very detailed, in some cases, information about the weather. So this top section is for satellite imagery, and that College of DuPage is one of the ones that most of the big eclipse chasers look. So if they have to move, they can get an idea of which way they want to go. And then there's also these numeric models down here, which are all real good weather sites. Now, obviously, right now with the eclipse, 6 months away, you're not going to get much information out of here, but as you get closer to eclipse time is when some of these are, good places to go to try and get a good idea of where you might want to land for the eclipse. I know, like, the updates that Fred Espinac was sending out for the annular eclipse. He lives in Arizona, but they call him Mr. Eclipse. He's been to like 40-something eclipses. He's written books about them, and he was sending on his Facebook page, he was sending out daily updates of the forecast map for cloud cover for the different segments of the eclipse path each day, and most of his were coming from that College of DuPage site. But it's a fun site, especially when you get closer, because all these forecasts are primarily generated for the path of the eclipse. So that's why it's called Eclipsophile. And hopefully, you'll be able to use all these to find yourself some clear skies to do some observing. Maybe not tonight, but in the future. So, that's all I had.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Thank you.
I downloaded 2 new apps while you were talking.
Yeah, you're downloading and bookmarking.
Hey, that's why I was doing it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as technology gets better and, you know, you get some people that are able to pull that information and code it into apps, so you've got all that information in one place, then it just becomes a matter of who wrote better code, whose algorithms work better than the other guys. But that's where it's helpful if you look at 4 or 5, you can get a pretty good idea of what the weather's going to be like.
Yeah, we had quite a conference in 2017. Our group around the picnic table the night before, everybody had their apps and their maps and their charts, and we're all comparing to figure out which way we're going to jump in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, well, I think that's probably my plan for next spring, as opposed to being tied to one location like I was in 2017.
Well, what we
Be
did first was find the place most likely to have clear skies and camp there,
Right.
and then figure out where to go from there.
That's what we did.
Yep.
And at the last minute, I got in the car with a full tank of gas and head out 150 more miles,
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
central Nebraska.
We went all the way to Wyoming. We camped on the Nebraska-Wyoming border,
Yeah.
and then we drove away into Wyoming that morning. Started at 3 a.m.
I had that road atlas that showed the
Yeah.
and